Welcome, everyone. This is the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating podcast. Here we chat about all things boating with marine industry professionals and enthusiasts who spend all the time they can out on the water.
Hi, this is Tanya Becker, and I'm your host for today's episode of PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating. Today I'm joined by Karl Neiger. Karl is a Yamaha Outboard Repower specialist at Central Marine in St. Petersburg, Florida. Central Marine is a Cobia, Jupiter, Parker, and a WorldCat dealer, and they're also a Yamaha Outboard dealer, and a very big one at that. They are the largest Yamaha Outboard Repower dealer in the United States, and Karl is their lead salesperson. He's had a long marine industry career, including managing the parts department at Central Marine before taking over the repower sales efforts. I think you shared with me, Karl, that you've sold more than 7,800 Yamaha outboards to date. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Tanya, that is a true number, but that's not over just a recent time. That's been about 11 years now. But I just got to tell you, I just hit 7,912 engines this week, which I was very happy with.
That's incredible. And I think you shared with me when we were chatting earlier that your goal is 15,000 before you retire?
Yes, it is. 15,000 is my goal. Hopefully I can get there before 63. I'm only 50 right now.
You'll be in a Yamaha Hall of Fame somewhere.
Something I really enjoy doing a lot.
Our conversation today is going to be about one pretty frustrating topic, but two really fun ones. I thought our listeners would benefit from an update in terms of what we're seeing, and Karl is right smack in the middle of all this, relating to Yamaha's supply chain and their ability to supply engines, parts, and products. Then we'll chat about recent Yamaha product introductions and technology upgrades, and finally about some of the really cool custom cowlings Karl sees, given that he spends every day working with Yamaha outboards and serves a lot of people upgrading their boats. For most of our conversation, we're going to talk specifically about Yamaha outboards. But before that, we wanted to briefly give listeners a little bit of context in terms of what's going on across virtually every industry, nearly every manufacturer. Global supply chains, and really businesses in general, were set up to absorb moment-in-time disasters. Things like earthquakes, fires, hurricanes, that sort of thing. Every smart manufacturer, and Yamaha is certainly one of them, had inventory reserves to manage these situations, and by and large, the system flowed really well for a long time. For instance, I believe it was 2011 when the tsunami hit Japan, actually not far from one of Yamaha's main outboard production facilities. And that situation was horrible and extremely tragic, but Yamaha had plenty of inventory in Japan, in the US, and in markets around the world. And although there was some disruption, by and large, things moved on without a lot of disruption from a business standpoint. But as the pandemic hit, there's been huge swings in demand for various products, and it's been tough to predict. Demand patterns for so many products changed rapidly around the world, leading to shipping containers for being in unpredictable places and not necessarily in the right places for their formerly really predictable trans-Pacific trade. Also, China and India, huge sources of raw materials and components for virtually every industry, had hard shutdowns for months, leading to shortages of microchips and other baseline manufacturing materials. To top it off, the U.S. shipping ports have been a mess, and U.S. land transportation, like trucking and rail, have been really challenged by worker shortages. It's been tough for a lot of businesses for a year and a half now. So, Karl, let's talk more specifically about Yamaha. What are you seeing in terms of the Yamaha outboard supply chain, their ability to supply engines, parts, and products?
Well, I can say it's been some frustrations, for sure, ups and downs. But I am dealing with a good partner. Yamaha is top of the charts, in my opinion. But lately, just it came down to pretty much all the box dealers like myself and the other dealers in the country that pretty much been only get 90 horsepower and below right now. 115 and up, I'm telling you, they are so hard to find right now. And if you do, it was like a unicorn popped through somebody's dealership. I mean, Yamaha's basically right now, they're trying to allocate all their engines to the exclusive contracted boat builders in the country. They want to keep them rolling. We're second. We'll just say that. Boat builders are first. The box dealers are second. They'd rather have dealers with boats on their lots, brand new ones to sell, than no boats on their lots, and instead of us repowering the people's older boats. If you understand what I mean, Tanya?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that from Yamaha's perspective. I mean, they're trying to keep the whole industry rolling, and it's been tough.
It is, but it's tough on the whole business. But it's tough on us box dealers because that's one of our main sources of income. We want people bringing their older boats, and they want new power. They love their boats. They don't want a new one. You have that sort of the population as well, and just trying to get a new boat. You're gonna wait till probably 2023 if you order one right now. But Yamaha's trying to keep them happy first. We'll get through this. I wouldn't want to be on any other team except for Yamaha when it comes to this.
I think, from what I understand, I mean, the boat builder side of the business is about 70% of Yamaha's U.S. business. Is that what you understand?
Yes, okay. It is. It just slowed down really quickly in the last 8 months, and like you said before. Yamaha had reserve stock. I had reserve stock. I'm known to always have between 500 and 600 engines in my warehouse to facilitate all the repowers. And it's not just repowers. I don't know if I told you, but I also handle a lot of smaller boat builders who haven't been able to sign up with Yamaha directly as a boat builder OEM because they have to sign a contract for so many engines. I think it's 200. I'm not sure. But they can't do that. It's just not feasible. I'm talking like your micro skiff companies, your smaller flats boats companies, some of the pontoons that,
And those folks would buy directly from you, right? Because they couldn't meet that requirement, volume requirement from Yamaha. Yeah.
So yeah, I've sold a lot of engines like we said before, but a lot of that's, boat builders, or even other Yamaha dealers, because because you're a Yamaha dealer doesn't mean you're able to sell outboards. You're basically a package dealer. You sell boats, you do service, and then that's it. But when you're a package dealer, you're in charge of repowering all these older boats, or supplying the smaller boat builders, or supplying other dealers. So that's where most of my audience is, and it's been pretty tough lately. I tell you. I feel bad for some of these smaller boat builders that I can't even get them a 150.
Parts and products availability has been tough too, from what I understand. What are you seeing shortages there on that front?
30-40% of the maintenance parts are pretty much unavailable right now. When they do come in, it's a little, like we ordered 3 pallets full of blue water separators. We've only got 3 cases in the last month, just cases of 12. It's one of your main points to keeping your 4-stroke in good shape because they don't like water.
No. Yeah, that's the fuel water separating filters has been a big challenge at PartsVu too. I mean, it's been rough. I mean, we keep a huge supply of those typically in stock because they're so common, like you said. But it's
every boat, every single boat.
Yeah, every boat.
And they only make
you have to replace them frequently.
And a small one. Yeah,
that's right.
But it's not only just a maintenance part. It's all coming to a head right now. So in my opinion, we're probably going to be at the worst that we can right now. I think moving forward into the end of 22 and 23, I think it's going to right itself. I think everything's going to get back to coming and going. Importing stuff and exporting. That's the main thing. We got to get them back and forth and keep it going again. But, rather be on Team Yamaha than most.
No, I'm with you there. I mean, in addition to all the supply shortages, we've seen a lot of freight related damage in the U.S., like in U.S. land transportation. Are you seeing that?
Actually, quite often. Usually we'll get a couple trucks a week that'll be dropping off outboards. Once again, 90s and below, but I have seen some damage, more than usual. It used to be that I could unload a truck and there wouldn't be a single, I don't care if there was 50 engines on that semi, there wouldn't be a single damage. I'm going to say 1% of the freight I've been seeing, it has been damaged. They're trying to move it too quick. Plus there's a shortage of truck drivers, which makes them go hire inexperienced people or new people right out of school, and they're just going too quick. These boxes on the average are $15,000 a box, up to, $30,000 a box. And you got to move them careful. The biggest part of the damage I've been seeing is mostly a fork going to the side of it and scratching a cowling or something like that. But Yamaha's pretty good about taking care of that. They'll either A, if it's got a hole in it, they'll send you a new cowling, or B, if it's just got a scratch, they'll let us send it to a local paint shop and color match it and put it out. And they pay for everything. They're good about that. It's not their fault per se, but in the trucking industry, it's pretty bad right now. I mean, I keep getting offers on my phone. You want to be a truck driver? Everybody's hiring truck drivers right now. I think I'm a little too old to be a truck driver.
Yeah. I thought about it for about 5 minutes, but then I thought, no, that'd be bad.
Yeah, I got 3 kids and a wife. I think I'd like to see them every day. But there's been a lot of extra damage that we've seen and missing stuff. It happens, but it's the nature of the beast of what we're all dealing with right now.
And that missing stuff, I think, that you're referring to, I think it's not Yamaha's fault. It's the problems at like the rail yards and the land transportation part, right? Have
you seen that, Tanya? I saw that on the news last night. There's a hub that the trains, go from the port of Los Angeles, and they got hubs and trains, and they're stacking these containers on these railways for trains. And I couldn't believe what I seen last night. They showed it on, I don't remember what news station one, but they showed the train has to stop every once in a while to change rails or whatever. And while these trains are stopped, you're seeing all these looters. They're coming up to the containers. They're breaking the locks. They're opening the doors, and they just start throwing stuff out. And people are opening boxes and looking for all the valuable stuff. And they're stealing it. So there's a big problem on that end. You guys should check it out.
That's incredible. Yeah, I missed that. I've missed those reports, but I'll definitely check that out.
It totally looks like a third world country. If you do find it on the ad, just picture train tracks without a train there, but it looked like a landfill of all these unopened packages from UPS, FedEx, Amazon. It's just the crazy world we live in right now.
Maybe I won't check that out because we've had enough bad news that I don't really need to worry about something else.
You and me both.
I think one of the hardest parts of all this, right? I mean, I'd have to imagine putting myself in your shoes, that, just communicating with your customers and the ability to tell your customers when their engines are going to come in.
That's probably the hardest part of my job is to give a definitive answer to my repower customers, my boat builders, the other small Yamaha dealers who can't sell. They've been ordering. I got a pretty big spreadsheet of orders of over 400 or 500 engines that are sold if I could just get them. But I do have to keep in touch with them. I'll roll down the list. Some of them know that I will always call them as soon as they get them. But it's hard. It's really hard, especially when these smaller companies that build boats that I sell motors to, they can't put out the boat, and their customers only want Yamaha. And that's the toughest part of my job, point blank.
I mean, I think for years, Central Marine, you would put in huge orders, as you said, you'd have 400 or 500, 600 engines in stock at all times. I mean, exactly what you're going to have 6 and 7 months in advance. And
to further that, say I did have the 600 engines out there, and I noticed that I would be getting low on, say, 300s. I was always able to pick up the phone to my sales rep and say, hey, listen, can I get 20 or 30 more 300s? If we have to switch them around with something else, somebody needs something, we can change my order. Well, that just doesn't happen anymore. I can't pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some more of these. Or, hey, switch my order around. Or 3, reorder. They only allowed us 1 order this year. I did order a lot. I ordered 2,100 engines. Not that hopefully I'll see most of them, but we don't know.
I think from what I understand, you and I both were talking to your Yamaha rep the other day, and Yamaha is, understandably, they're not giving you engine inventory availability until those engines hit the port and are offloaded from the port in the U.S., I believe, right?
Yeah, this is true. My daily routine is I get my coffee, I fire up the computer. It's about 6:30 in the morning. I log into Yamaha, and there's a sales tab where I could show all my open orders to the engines. And when I open that, I hit search and it brings up all the engines I have on order. I'm like, it does this little circle of death for about 3 minutes because I have so many orders, and it organizes them. And what I'm looking for is a confirmed next to the engine and a target ship date. Once I get those two online, I actually know I'm going to get that engine within 2 or 3 weeks coming out of Seattle. And that's what I base my sales on. And that's all I can base my sales on right now, because there is no dates on all the other engines that I haven't ordered that are on back order. That's the tough part.
That's the tough part. Being able to tell your customers what to expect. I mean, it used to take 15 days for Yamaha to get an engine from Japan to the US. You know, it's...
Yep, and then 2 more weeks to me.
That's it.
It was always like that. Mm-hmm. For my whole career, it has been. I've never had a short before, ever. Because we've all had the reserves, like you were saying. Yamaha had a reserve. I always had a reserve, 500 or 600 engines sitting there ready to go. But that's not anymore. And it's going to take a little while to get back to that position.
We'll get back there, though. I have faith, and I know Yamaha is working real hard to make that happen. But let's talk about something that's a little bit more fun. I know that everybody is tired of hearing about all the disruptions in the pandemic and so forth. But we thought it was important to keep folks updated just on what's happening. But technology upgrades, new product announcements, those kind of things are much more fun to talk about. And I know you're passionate about this, Karl.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the recent Yamaha announcements that, in the last year or so that have been, really impressive to you?
The most impressive thing, I think, it was their new Helmmaster EX. And nobody ever knew what the EX standed for. Well, EX stands for expandable. So you can buy, that's expandable. So you can buy, for a digital fly-by-wire engine, a control, Helmmaster EX. It's ready for Helmmaster. The EX, you can add on autopilot later after you purchase the boat. You can add on the joystick. You can add on your set point. My favorite feature on the Helmmaster is the spot lock. Spot lock is say you get to your favorite fishing spot and there's a reef under their structure and the fish are going crazy. You can see them on the fish. Well, on the Yamaha spot lock, you just hit the button and that spot lock via GPS communicating with the computers and the engines will keep that boat right on the spot with current, with wind, where you don't even have to throw your anchor anymore. That's one of my favorite features. They came out with a new show recently, which is going to the builders, obviously, but the new SHO motor, which is one of my favorites. It's their high performance version. And the show stands for super high output. They just remodeled their show series on the 200, 225, and 250s with a new cowling. But they also added, I think 30 or 40% more charging capabilities because, all these new electronics and all these gadgets on the boat consume a lot of power and the batteries need to be charged. And they've upped the charging rate to the show series. And pretty good for them bass fishermen that has 3 to 5 batteries in their boat. They need them charged. Trolling motors, everything's, going electric and a lot of it's on the boats. And it's pretty much some of the stuff now you can go right to your smartphone. It connects with Yamaha and you can get diagnostics on your engine. It's pretty interesting stuff. They always want to be a little ahead of everybody. And that's what I like most about Yamaha. They're very innovative.
They're doing so much, to really make an integrated kind of boating experience, to make, operating boats so much easier, I think, and keeping track of maintenance and performance and things like that as well. Yeah,
it's pretty nice when your maintenance matters and your boat tells your phone it's ready for a 100-hour service and you can get it right off your phone. It's one of those things they rolled out with Yamaha last year or the year before. It's a maintenance program where the consumer can actually download the app, put in the serial number of the engine, and almost like your car dealership, it calls you every time you're ready for an oil change, usually a month ahead of time. Well, they're working that into the features too with the service department, and it's very interesting. And I think a lot of the dealers should utilize that and bring a lot of residual business back to the dealership instead of the secondary shops that aren't Yamaha dealers.
Yeah, I think that was the My Yamaha Outboards app. I think literally that's what they called it, right? Yeah, exactly. Which is, yeah, I mean, I think for the dealers, it's great. Like you said, I mean, to have alerts for people to come back and, bring their boat back in for service. And then anybody that does any DIY kind of, maintenance can enter that too. So that the dealer can see what the owner's been doing. At least that's from my understanding.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to ask you about that. On those, I know you guys sell a lot of parts on your online presence is getting pretty big, huger by the month. But do you guys sell a lot of those maintenance kits that has the oil filter, the gasket in there for your oil changes? Do you guys happen to sell a lot of those?
Yeah, we sell tons of maintenance kits for all different things. I mean, just, 100, 20-hour service, obviously, for a new engine, or, 100, 300-hour kits. Just for, those interval maintenance things, water pump repair kits. Are you
all
those
seeing
kind
more of an online presence with the DIYs like you've been saying lately? Because I think a lot of people are trying to save money and do some of the stuff themselves, not to distract them from going to their dealerships. But I was just curious if you've seen an uptick in the maintenance purchases through the online presence.
I can't really speak to whether there are more DIY maintenance people out there. I think there always were a lot. I think I think there's always kind of, every boat owner has, unless you're like a certified mechanic, I mean, every boat owner has certain things that they feel comfortable doing themselves and certain things they want their dealer to do, and I think for people, it just depends on their, level of mechanical comfort, right? I mean, some people don't even want to change their own oil. They go to the dealer for that. But other people have, they feel more comfortable and, they go to the dealer when something more complicated is happening. So I think, the kits that PartsVu sell just kind of help those DIY folks that were doing it all along, just making it easier for them a bit, to make sure they have all the stuff they need in one box.
Well, back to what we're talking about with not only engines, it's hurting the service departments too, because, you can't get all the maintenance parts. You can't just bring your boat in. I want a half a service, can you?
No.
We'll come back. We'll get the water separators and the spark plugs the next time. I owe you. Just, you know what I mean? It's getting tough. It's not only just the engines. It's the service department. It's the boat sales department. It's tough on everybody. But like I said, I wouldn't want to be on anybody other team except for Yamaha's. The guys are smart. They're going to figure it out.
They'll figure it out for sure. The other thing I wanted to, I follow your Instagram feed, Karl, and it's at, I included this in the show notes for everybody, but everybody should follow Karl because he posts a lot of fun stuff. His handle is Yamaha 7Man, and that's in the show notes as well. But I love, my favorite thing on your feed is when you post about your custom Yamaha, the custom cowling covers, because you're dealing with a lot of repower folks. They kind of jazz up their cowlings, cowling covers kind of a lot. It seems. What are some of your favorites that you've seen?
Well, my all-time favorite just recently popped up. And it's probably 10 or 12 posts back, but a very good artist took a 250 show cowling, super high output, and just in general, the shape of that cowling looks like the Predator. And there was a awesome artist who took the time to actually paint the face of the Predator onto the cowling. And I tell you what, you would think it's the Predator just looking at it. You'd probably have to go back 10 or 12 posts, but that was probably my all-time favorite. But, with these expensive boats, I mean, some of these center consoles with 3 and 4 engines are color matched the whole boat. If you look at the interior, the dash, and a lot of people want stuff to match. And what I've noticed over the last 5 to 10 years, that this has been getting more and more. Yamaha puts out gray and white's only on the 300s and the 425s. So a lot of times the gray, all these new colors that have been coming up over the years, doesn't match. But I had one guy in probably about 4 years ago. He had a beautiful Intrepid. It was white and teal green, like a boot stripe going across, but it was like a 2-foot one. And he said, let me see those engines. And I just kind of pulled it out with the forklift. Oh, here you go, this one. And he wanted to see what it looked like against the boat. I said, yeah, that's going to look great in my mind. He goes, well, my wife's not going to like that. She's probably going to be mad at me. I'm like, well, what do you mean mad at you? Well, she wants the engines to match the boat, both two tones, the white and the teal green. I was like, oh, well, I can help you with that. You know, I know great painters. I know one on the our coast here is Mike with Merino Customs. He can match any color there is and does a fantastic paint job. But moving forward into the other 80% of my customers on the East Coast, you know, there's Outboard Paint Shop and there's Miami Outboards, and those are the three, you know, your top tier painters. One over here and two over there. And in the last 3 years, I've had a lot of engines go to their shop and then back to our shop to put on the boat, and it matches perfectly. If you want to go back, you'll see that in Intrepid. It's green and white, and the cowlings two-tone. They took the top of the edges of the cowling, they made it the green, and then they made the white to match the boat. It's probably the most beautiful paint job I've ever seen, with not even no orange peel, no speck, almost like a glossy glass paint job. But people like to match, you know. You get your wives involved, you know, they want it to look nice. They want to look cool on the water.
Of course. And I think a lot of guys want their boats to look cool too. It's not just the women.
My ultimate headache on the painted cowlings is the ones that I see are painted black. I mean, why would you paint a Yamaha black? You're painting a mercury color. It just kills me.
Oh, yeah.
But they look good. They look good. But, you know, if you have a boat with a lot of black accents, you want to keep the theme going, there you go. But and then there's some customers that instead of using labels, you know, like, you know, you've seen the Yamaha cowlings, you can touch it. It's a label. And over time, the sun's still. Well, now they're airbrushing the Yamaha emblem on, and I just posted one yesterday. I put my hand across that. You can't even feel a bump. It's like it's integrated in the paint. The painters have gotten so good at this that you wouldn't even know. It's like a reflection out of the paint. I don't know if you can check it out, but I just posted that this morning. It's on a Yamaha 300, and David Gauze, one of my boat builders I deal with. He's got a very good painter. You should check it out. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I mean, are these painters? I mean, you know, there's color matching, there's doing some cool stripes and that kind of thing. But these painters also do, you know, art as well, right? I mean, I've seen like American flags and just really intricate kinds of things, right? I mean,
yeah, it's intricate. You know, in my mind, how long did it take that guy to airbrush that Predator cowling? That had to be 20, 30 hours of work. Because now, once you paint it, just because it's airbrushed doesn't mean it's done. Now you have to clear coat everything so all that art stays in and protect it from the sun so it doesn't fade. There's some pretty good stuff.
And people really need to work with a marine paint shop to do this kind of thing, because if you just paint it, I mean, and don't know what you're doing from a marine protection standpoint, it's going to be ruined within a year, I would think, especially down in Florida.
Yeah, especially in Florida, yes, in the saltwater environment. Yeah. So what I do hear a lot, people to protect not only their boats finish and the cowlings finishes. A lot of people are doing like they do with cars now. They're actually having the engines and boats ceramic coated, which gives us that hard extra layer of protection. And it's very much easier to clean the boat. You can just almost spray it off. The salt falls off, and you can either use your blower and dry it off, or you can use a chamois in it. There's no spots. A lot of ceramic coatings have been going on to motors and boats lately.
And who are I was not aware of this actually. Who's doing this ceramic coating? Is it just paint shops doing it, or
most of all your boat detailers are doing it now? Like over here, it's Merino Customs. He does ceramic coats of engines after he paints them, and he does on boats. And now he's teaching the end user how to do it, because it's really good protection for your boat or your engine paint to put some ceramic over it for the long haul. Yeah.
Great. Well, this was a fantastic conversation, Karl. I think, you know, this supply chain business is frustrating to people, but it's important for folks to know what's going on. And it's always much more fun to talk about Yamaha technology and all the fun things people are doing out there.
Yeah, no problem. I had a good time.
As something special for our listeners, Karl and I worked together to create a post on PartsVu's Instagram and Facebook and Karl's Instagram, featuring some of the most interesting Yamaha outboard cowling covers Karl has encountered recently. The link to these posts are included in the show notes, along with the links to follow Karl, Central Marine, and PartsVu on Instagram and Facebook.
If you're looking for a Yamaha Repower, contact Karl. All of his contact information is in the show notes, and he does have customers nationwide. I've also included Central Marine's contact information in the show notes. And if you're in the St. Petersburg area and are looking for a new or used boat or marine service, definitely check them out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the PartsVu Xchange Talks Boating podcast. Is it almost time for routine maintenance on your outboard or Mercruiser marine engine? Check out our easy-to-use maintenance kits at PartsVu.com. And for free shipping, use the coupon code PVTalksBoating, a special perk for our podcast listeners. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for boating knowledge, to keep in touch with the PartsVu community, and for special sales and promotions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and check out the show notes for the coupon code just mentioned, more information about PartsVu and the products we offer, as well as our boating blog, the PartsVu Exchange. And a big thanks to Min for performing the original music featured within this podcast.